Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is about FND, which is Functional Neurological Disorder. It disrupts the brain's normal pathways for movement, speech, thinking, feeling and walking. I have a few friends with FND and it seems really scary to have it, and there's not a lot of information from the doctors about it, so I thought why not make a video on this. Today's video we're going to talk to my friend Reagan, who has FND. He's very creative, and whenever I've written a song in the past I would go to his house and see what he wants to do with it. But he has a lot of things going on, and one of these conditions is FND. So let's get started.
Okay.
How did it start?
Okay, well that's an interesting question because it's very hard actually to pinpoint the exact moment where it started. But for me, the moment I realised it, I suppose, was back in 2022, round about the springtime, so maybe about March, give or take. Okay. I was outside just in the town centre doing a normal thing, and then I fainted.
Okay, scared the hell out of you.
Yeah, it was a very scary moment, and then it was this like overwhelming anxiety attack or panic attack that came right after. That lasted a while, and then things weren't. So I felt a bit weird. As a result, I rang the doctor, to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, maybe a month or two later, I can't remember the exact time, but I ended up having a seizure. And that's when I thought, okay, this has progressed into something worse. So I talked to the doctors more. I had a particular doctor I spoke to. She was really nice.
Okay.
She did well. Not going to say names, but she did well. And then round about the start of September, I got my official diagnosis of FND, or Functional Neurological Disorder.
How do you feel about knowing? Because there's not a lot of information about it when I researched it myself.
Yeah, it's a bit understood. It's not as understood as it should be compared to other illnesses, but it is also relatively rare. It was also called conversion disorder.
Okay.
If you didn't know. It's a bit easier to find, literature on that, because for many years throughout the 20th century it was called that with a different name. It was only recently changed to, well, I don't know exactly the date, but it was only in recent time that it was changed to FND. The reason for that was because the word conversion disorder refers or suggests that it's purely through psychological means.
Okay.
So like psychological stresses and traumas create the symptoms, which can be true. I'm not saying it isn't. But what FND does is that it gets rid of the idea that it's only caused by that. Because some people, or it's been observed that some people get the same condition through physical trauma as well as mental trauma. So like you could have like a physical accident and it can trigger it as well.
I didn't know that.
Yes, so
There
that's an interesting one. So if you are researching about it and you're getting not much information, sometimes by typing in conversion disorder you can find a bit more information about it, because there's a bit more literature on that particular topic.
So after your diagnosis of that, do you feel a lot better in yourself that you know that you got FND in yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to know what you have. And
then I was going to ask you, what would you say to others who've been diagnosed with it, and what could help them? Because
it's a tricky one, because obviously I want to help those with it. The condition is a bit more of an umbrella term. So it's like there's so many symptoms and systematic idiosyncrasies when it comes to the disease. It's hard to individualize it, because like it's so individual itself. It's like you can get two people with the condition but have very different symptoms. From two very different causes, despite the fact that it's the same illness, because it has such an array of symptoms to it. So for example, like me, I have seizures.
Yeah.
But there's been cases, people with either FND or conversion disorder, depending on what they were diagnosed with at the time, of people going blind, people going deaf.
Yeah, I've said at the start, there's speech issues, there's walking, because it's not just you, I've got a few friends that have FND, so that's why I thought I would talk about it today.
Oh well, thank you, and it's good that you're making people more aware of it, because it's good for them to have that awareness.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's even like old diagnoses. Like, have you ever heard of hysterical blindness as a condition?
Yeah.
That became FND.
Part of it. Oh.
So historical blindness is no longer a diagnosed thing. It comes under FND,
FND.
for example. Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go. If you didn't know that, but yeah, it's because it has such an umbrella of conditions, which you probably have mentioned a lot of them, and
Some of it at the start. I did like a nice introduction to you, and then I said about what happens with FND, but then that's it really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good to be more aware, and obviously you can always do your Wikipedia searches. Wikipedia is always a great place to start, and there are some like websites that are dedicated to it too. So you know, if you ever want to research it, go ahead. It's a bit of a weird disorder though to describe to people because there's not.
I don't think there's a lot of information on there. When like you've been diagnosed, and so did my other friend, there isn't like even though you got diagnosed with it, there's like not a lot of information that the doctors know about it to help you.
Yes, that's true. Some doctors are not as aware of it as other doctors. Some doctors are, obviously, but some doctors are not so much. And it's very easy for some doctors to sort of pass it by. Like, it's nothing. Like, there are cases where people have had the condition and the kind of doctors just go, oh, it's in your head.
Yeah.
And that's quite common because they say, oh, well, you have, you know, this condition, like, I don't know, let's say you got depression or anxiety, and say, oh, it's just depression and anxiety, you'll be fine. Just get some,
It's
you know.
completely something different.
And yeah, it's something different. Now, don't get me wrong, stuff like PTSD and severe depression and anxiety can trigger things like FND, but it has its own thing from its pathological standpoint, if that makes sense. Well, it's a very difficult one as well because what FND does is that it doesn't really show up very well on actual equipment, you know, that they use to diagnose people with. So if you have for example, if you're having seizures, right, and you think, okay, well, the first thing that doctors tend to do is it epilepsy, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It makes sense, seizures, epilepsy, you know. Yeah. But when you have CT scans or MRI scans for it, whatever you have, it doesn't show up because there's no actual, organically speaking, there's no abnormalities in the brain. Therefore, nothing shows up. And this historically has been sort of a catalyst for doctors just to pass people by with the condition, saying it's in your head or type of thing, or you're making it up, even depending on what doctor you have. Not all doctors, but some. So, but what my doctor did, because she was really good, like I mentioned, she explained it in a very good way. Well, one of many ways, which was, if epilepsy is a hardware issue in your computer, FND would be a software issue.
Okay.
So if you got an issue on your computer, let's say you're using some form of software, could be an internet browser, it could be your, I don't know, Logic if you're a musician, or Final Cut Pro if you're media studies, or whatever, you know, even a video game you're playing. If something's like, let's say it's playing up and you were to check all the hardware, like, of your computer, and you find that everything is completely fine, but you're baffled why that particular thing's not working.
Yeah.
Normally it's an issue within the software itself, not the computer.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the services, you know, that the software is connected to might be down, so it's not exactly yours. But basically, the point is that think of FND as a software issue. But what happens is that doctors try and look at the hardware rather than the software.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
It's like, basically that's the best way to describe. To make it a bit easier as well, because everyone understands computers, which I understand. If you're not very good at understanding computers, the best way I would describe it would be, if, let's say, it's not the brain itself that's the issue, but the signals from the brain get disrupted.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes really easy.
Yeah. So what's going on is that when the signal's travelling into here to, let's say, your legs to function, something's disrupting that signal in between it, and that was basically what FND does. So it's like a disconnection from the brain rather than the brain being an issue.
Yeah. So there's a lot of frustration there for you then, and anger. If you want to do something, because you're quite a creative individual, so it must be quite. You are.
Thank you.
But it must be quite frustrating to do stuff that you want to do and then it gets in the way because of just life, innit?
Yeah. Got a cup of tea, by the way. But yeah, I agree. It's a bit like that. I mean, obviously, with any disability or condition, I understand that emotions do come with it. You know, like...
I'd be frustrated. Like, that would be my... I don't know how you are with yours.
With mine? Yeah, I get... Obviously, I get frustrated. Thank you for... You know, for recognising that. But obviously, at the same time, I recognise that many people with disabilities get the same feeling, so it's good to understand that, share with each other, you know, understand each other very well in that regard. So, yeah, like if like for example, the past sort of week or so, only recently, like the past day or two, that my legs have been working better, but like the past week, my legs were really bad. I was having to use a walking stick outside, and nearly fell over a few times. I haven't been going out as much as a result, because you wouldn't, I suppose. But it kind of, it's a bit annoying as well, because it varies, like you said, like it flares up and then it goes back to normal.
It's about individuals, like each one's different.
Yeah, because some people with this condition can be permanently like stuck.
Is there anything you want to say before we like wrap up? Is there anything like you want to say to people who got it? Anything positive?
Keep your head up, chap.
Keep your head up, chap. We're going to end on that, are we?
Yeah, that's how I like to end up on it.
Okay.
You're not alone.
Am I gonna get a...
Do you want a fist bump?
Yeah. I don't know
That's
why.
best friends, that is. Best friends fist each other.
I can't put that as an ending!
Just use the chaps.
You.
Oh, you got my questions
I got some
already.
questions here.
Okay, so we're sitting like this?
Well, if you want to.
Okay, yeah. A bit easier, because I'm facing that way. So,
I find it easier for me.
See?
What? See?
Oh.
Okay. I was going to say, like, when did you get diagnosed, or how did it all start? Stop doing that! Hang on.
See, to get the